from Scribbling Grace. So today I'm going to be doing a real-time Bible journaling page for you. So this page took me under 12 minutes to do start to finish, and so I thought it'd be fun to show you real-time how I painted some sunflowers. I feel like spring is just in the air and I am ready for it to be spring, although I live in Southern California, so it's pretty much always spring or summer. So I wanted to paint some sunflowers. So I do have a tutorial on painting sunflowers just like this, and it goes a little bit more in depth. So you may want to check that one out if you want to know more about painting sunflowers. So I am starting off by just dabbing in with a fairly large round paintbrush, some purple, a little magenta, and a little brown into a circle shape. So you can see I have some little white spaces. Some spots are darker than others because the paint's a little more pigmented in those spots. I'm really loving that because I feel like it looks a little bit more realistic. And I'm going straight into adding my yellow-orange color. So this is Cadmium Orange from my Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolor set. I love this color because when you use this color really pigmented, so less water and more pigment, which is kind of what I have right here, the color comes out orange, but if you add more water, the color turns out more yellow. So I feel like you can just create so many different tones by using this same one color, and I feel like it's just really pretty for sunflowers. So I love using this color, and I'm just painting in some petals. So I am letting my brush touch those purple colors, that magenta, as I'm making my shape, so that those colors will kind of bleed together. So I didn't let that center dry before adding these petals, and that way those purples are going to bleed into that orange, into that yellow, and I think it just creates a really pretty effect. And I think that that's one of the beauties of watercolor. And if I felt like I was getting a little too out of control, I just dabbed it up with, I had a tissue on hand, but you could, paper towels are preferable, but just dab up the extra paint if you feel like you need to. So now I'm going to paint another one. So again, just using my paintbrush to just dab on that color into a circle shape. You can see I kind of did the purple on one side, the magenta filling up the other side, a little bit of brown, so that you can kind of see the different colors within the petals, so that they don't all, or within that center, so that they don't all just bleed together and create one murky brown color. And I will note that I am trying to keep the bulk of my painting here, so these darker colors, the darker purples in the margin of my page, but I am going to go over the text a bit on this page. So that is my personal preference. I can still read it. When using watercolors, I try to keep my colors light enough that I can still always read all the text, but that is totally a personal decision. So you could totally use a smaller paintbrush and make these flowers smaller and keep it to just your margin, or you can make a tip-in, and I'll put my tip-in tutorial, I'll link it in the description below. So to make my petals here, you can see I'm just applying pressure and releasing that pressure to create a leaf shape. So here I apply the pressure, and I go on both sides. So I do one side of the petal and then the next to create that classic leaf shape. And again, I'm not going too in depth in this video, but I do have leaf tutorials and another sunflower tutorial. I actually have multiple sunflower tutorials. So I will link all of those. I'll link my leaf shape tutorials because that'll help give you a good idea. This is also kind of similar to my poinsettia tutorial, so I will link that one as well. So check out those ones to learn a little bit more about creating these leaf shapes. Again, this is real time, so I move pretty quickly, so quickly that it's hard for me to even tell you exactly what I'm doing. So, but I'm hoping that watching you kind of can get the visual and the idea of it. So you can see I dabbed up some of that purple color to make it a little bit lighter and not so purple in those petals, but it still looks really pretty. I like that effect. But if you did not want your purple bleeding into the petals, you absolutely could just do your center and let it dry and then add the petals, and you won't have that color bleeding into your petals like I do. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my leaves. And these are basically going to be the same shape that I was doing. So I'm using the same large round paintbrush, painting out a little stem with just the tip of my paintbrush, and then applying pressure and releasing it to make a point, and then doing it again. And here you can see that I kind of just colored it in with the tip of my paintbrush around that petal because I want it to look like the leaf is underneath the flower a little bit. So I'll just use the tip of my paintbrush to color around that petal. So if me talking about the pressure that I'm applying and stuff is confusing to you, or you're a beginner, I want to encourage you that you can still totally do a page like this. Just take the tip of your paintbrush and paint the shape that you want your petal or your leaf to look like and color it in with your paintbrush. I just want to encourage you to get the paint on the page and go for it. It's not about creating the perfect page, so even if you mess up, it's still beautiful because it's all about worshiping God and spending time with Him and growing our relationship with Him. So it's about Him, not about us, and not about the art. Art is just a benefit. So the verse that I'm working on is Luke 9, verses 18 through 20, which says, "Now it happened that as he was praying alone, the disciples were with him, and he asked them, 'Who do the crowds say that I am?' And they answered, 'John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, and others that one of the prophets of old has risen.' Then he said to them, 'But who do you say that I am?' And Peter answered, 'The Christ of God.'" And so I am mainly focusing on verse 20 here. Who do you say that I am? The Christ of God. So I am going to finish up painting these leaves. As you can see, I just kind of added these leaves to fill in the white space as I felt they were necessary. So some you can see have stems, and some on that like bottom flower don't have stems. I'm just really having fun with it, trying to fill in this space. And one comes from the side, and so wherever you feel like is necessary, you can add those leaves. And I will again link the supplies that I used, my Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolor set, and I will list the names of all the colors that I used as well in the description below. So I know that I get asked that a lot. So I am finished painting now, and I'm drying my page with my heat gun. This did take me a little bit longer. I'm going to cut it off a little bit because you don't want to just watch me dry my page for 3 minutes. But using my heat gun really does quicken drying that page really fast. It makes drying the page really quick, and it's comparable to a hair dryer, but it blows hotter air and less forceful air, so it doesn't push any of the paint puddles around or anything like that. So I wrote out with my pencil, "But who do you say that I am?" And I'm just going to go over that with my Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen and just some calligraphy. So I do also have tutorials on creating brush calligraphy and faux calligraphy and bounce calligraphy. I would say that this is bounce calligraphy. So if you want to learn exactly how I'm doing this lettering, I will put those links in the description below as well. So just check that out. I do want to mention that this, again, is real time, but I do move pretty quickly when I am doing my lettering, and that's just because it's like second nature to me because I've been doing it for so long. But especially if you're a beginner and you struggle with your lettering, I want to say try going slower. That's one of the things that I have struggled with, but when you go slower, it does allow you to have a little bit more control. So another thing, as you can see right now, is that I, even now, 5, 6 years after I started lettering, I still often go back over my letters to fix them up. So I had some upstrokes that were wobbly and some downstrokes that were inconsistent. So I'll just go back over it to fix up those lines as I feel that they need to be fixed. So the great thing about this brush pen that I'm using is that if you don't apply any pressure to it, it's just this nice thin stroke that you'll get. But when you apply the pressure, you get those thick lines, which is what's giving those thick parts of my letter. So again, I talk a lot more about it in the brush pen calligraphy tutorials and things. So check those out. But yeah, so that's it for my page, you guys. Again, it was a really quick one. Just a lot of fun and really meaningful and simple. So I love these pages. I'm just erasing that pencil, and then I will show you the backside. So I get asked a lot with these supplies that I use, my Kuretake watercolors and the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. I do not ever have bleed through issues with them. So here is the backside. As you can see, no bleed through at all. And I do not prep my pages with anything, so keep that in mind. So that's it for my video. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And be sure to check out all of the links in the description below. All right, much love, many blessings. Bye.